Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Intentional Living podcast with Emlah. Today, I am here with my wonderful friend Julie Haler. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. So, Julie is a registered nurse and she is a board certified functional medicine nutrition health coach. What an honor to have you here. She's also the owner of Balance Health Nutrition Coaching in Dublin. The 4 pillars of intentional living: nutrition, movement, inner alignment, and positive social connection. Notice how I start with nutrition. It is the first pillar of intentional living. So, Julie, there are tons and tons and tons of education material out there. There's stuff on TikTok, Instagram, there's blogs and newsletters and all the kinds of books. And we don't know which one's correct. There are myths out there, there are misconceptions. If you were to address some of those myths that we have encountered in nutrition, what would you start with addressing?
There's so many of them. I think many of them have been around for so many years, and many people have internalized this, lived in this state for years, because even if we go to one of the biggest things I hear when a new client comes in is they're still counting calories, right? And of course, during the time I was growing up, that was the thing that we did, eat under 1,200 calories a day, and, that'll help you maintain a healthy weight. But really, that it is about what these calories are made up of, right?
Yes.
That is going to turn on your anti-inflammatory genes, your disease-fighting genes.
Yes.
We want calories that balance our blood sugar. So if you think about 500 calories of chicken and broccoli versus 500 calories of cookies and candies, our body is going to do so many different things. With that protein in the chicken, it's going to, again, balance our blood sugar. It's going to keep us satisfied for hours. Control insulin production.
Yes.
The broccoli provides all the vitamins and nutrients and minerals that we need, again, to fight disease, to feed that good bacteria in our gut that actually produces metabolites that help us maintain a healthy weight. Where the candies and cookies going to spike our blood sugar, which is going to spike our insulin, which impacts our hunger hormones and keeps us in this cycle all day of eating, crashing, eating, crashing. Over the course of the day, we end up eating a lot more. So that is one of the big misconceptions, I think, that's out there. However, in saying that, we still need to be aware of the caloric content of the foods we intake. Like, for instance, take nuts. We know they're so heart healthy. They contain a ton of omega-3s. But if we eat a cup of them, we're at 700 or 800 calories.
Yes.
And 70 grams of fat, right? So I think that's where we take into account portion size.
Yes.
And what that looks like. So the awareness needs to be there, but I don't think we need to say, I hear this over and over, this only has 120 calories, but 10 grams of added sugar. So even though that's 120 calories, it's going to go to our liver and be converted to fat because of the amount of sugar in there. So that's a big one for me. Another myth, we've always been told that fat is the enemy, but really it's sugar. Right? Sugar is what is so inflammatory.
Yes, girl. Yes.
What is causing insulin resistance. It is making us sick. It is such an addictive substance. We ingest it. It goes to our reward center in our brain, just like drugs and alcohol do.
I know.
Produces dopamine.
Dopamine, yes.
We want more. We eat it,
Crave
we crash, we want more. And I think people really think it's their weakness, right? That it's their problem. They have no willpower. But if we keep feeding that's the pull that's going to keep us there. I don't want people to say, I'm the failure. If we pull that back, we reprogram our brain, we reprogram our taste buds to want the healthier foods.
Yes.
To where something like a strawberry, when we do this,
Yes.
tastes amazing, as opposed to a gummy bear or, Sour Patch Kids.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
that's a big one. And then one other piece,
Yes. Tell
I
us
can
all, because
open
these are all
to
things that I hear clients, asking about every day. Is sugar is the problem? How do we break this? It is, you mentioned when you said inflammation, like that's basically it.
It is.
These are the myths and the misconceptions that, because nobody wants to jeopardize their health. People want to do good, but coming from you, I need to hear this from a nutritionist, and I need to hear your perspective, as a mom, as a person, Yes.
Yes. So you mentioned inflammation. I that really is at the core of all disease,
Yes.
right? But another huge piece, and I know you and I have talked about this, is insulin resistance,
Yes.
right?
Oh, goodness.
So sugar, the constant ingestion of sugar is getting us there. But another myth, and you will hear both sides of the story, but I'm pretty adamant in this, is kind of that, and this was something else that was very popular trend, was eating 5 small meals a day, right? So what's going on there is, we eat.
Yes.
It increases our blood sugar.
Yes.
We produce insulin to take that food and put it in our cells for energy.
Yes.
Then we eat again in another hour.
Oh.
Our cells are still full from the last time we ate, so that insulin has to put the food somewhere, ends up storing it as fat. But also, if we keep doing this throughout the day, that insulin is constantly circulating in our bloodstream, right? So then our body kind of stops listening to that, right? It's always there, so why pay attention to it? So that's when we start to become insulin resistant, right? We're not listening to it. We're constantly storing that fat, and now, we always, correlate insulin resistance with diabetes, but now we know it's at the base of heart disease.
All the other chronic
Alzheimer's,
diseases that are out there, yes.
autoimmune. So I really don't, that constant fed state that we think we need to be in, because it increases our metabolism. For most of us, unfortunately, I do sit a lot in my job because I'm meeting with clients one-on-one. Most of us are not athletes that are working out all day
constantly.
long, or constant, a labor-intensive job,
Yes.
right? A good majority of us are not that way, so we don't need that constant caloric intake all day.
What you said there, it just reminded me. I was talking about this insulin resistance with my daughter, and she was like, Mom, what does insulin resistance really mean? And I was thinking of a way to break it down to her in such a way that she can remember it. And I came up with an example. I said, your brother plays soccer, right? Tim's a soccer player. So think about it. When we come back from soccer, I maybe carry him and his friends and bring them to the house. And they get in the house with their cleats and their dirty shoes. If they walk in, the house gets dirty. And think about it like food came in. I'm not saying food is negative, but just think about every time you eat, your body produces insulin. And the insulin is like the cleaner. You call the cleaner to come and clean the house. Every time you eat. Julie talked about eating in a fed state, eating 5 small meals a day. Every time you eat, you summon insulin. Insulin gets produced for all good reason. And the insulin comes, breaks down that food, stores it either in the liver, in the muscle, or as adipose in the fatty adipose tissue. But think about this. Constantly eating, at one point the insulin gets tired. You ate 1 hour ago. You're eating again now. You're eating in 2 hours. Constantly eating in a fast state. Your insulin keeps coming and doing the job, but at one point, your insulin is going to get tired, old, and just flimsy, and will not be able to do the job as well. And when it comes and cleans, it will still leave some dirt on the floor. That's leaving some glucose floating in your blood, and that's kind of how diabetes creeps in. So insulin resistance is a thing long before diabetes is diagnosed. So if we don't continue eating in a fed state, that's how to reduce insulin resistance. So insulin resistance comes about when we constantly eat in a fed state and constantly ask too much of our insulin. I thought that was a beautiful way to explain it to my daughter, to say, you know what, we need to eat, but not as frequently as we're eating. We've been taught to do that, like you said, in America so much. And it brings us to my next question, which I was, how do you, you talked about your job, being busy, work-life balance, and it's just that occasional late-night craving, how do we intentionally align our nutrition with our goals and being able to, mitigate that late-night snack craving?
Sure.
And
Sure. I think we always have to have a plan, right? We can't just
I love a
wing
good
it.
plan.
We can't just wing it when it comes to our nutrition, right? I get that it's work, but again, this is intentional living, right?
Yes.
We don't just happen to become healthy by chance.
What?
Right? We've got to work at it. So, and truly, and I say this to anyone, even in the initial consultation when we're deciding if it's a good fit to work together, is that I don't think this needs to be hours of planning and prepping, in the kitchen. It's doing a few things week to week that set you up for success during the week. Because you're right, life is busy. We have jobs, we have family, we have outside stressors, finances,
Yes.
families,
You name 'em.
family situations,
Yes.
right? So how can we keep this simple? And I think it goes back to thinking through your week, having a plan on Sunday, having, groceries on hand for the week. One thing that came out of COVID is we've got grocery delivery, we've got grocery pickup. We can keep this simple and getting those core things, your proteins, your fruits and vegetables on hand, so that we don't have to every day reinvent the wheel, right?
Yes.
We have these things on hand to make, quick meals. I think, for breakfast and lunch, we can do some repetition.
Yes.
Right? We're making sure each of those contain our protein, our healthy fats, and our fiber, but it doesn't need to be complex. I had a client who thought she needed to make an elaborate recipe every time she ate in order for this to be
Healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And no, just keep it simple. In what that, you spoke to late night cravings. I know that those will happen, but I'm a little bit of a stickler about late night eating. I always say if that craving is really strong at that point, we need to rewind and see what happened during your day.
Okay.
Right?
I like that.
When you are eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, or like I do 2 bigger meals a day,
Yes.
whatever your day of eating might look like, are you checking off the boxes of protein, fats, and fibers? Because that's what will balance your blood sugar.
Yes.
That's what will keep us satisfied, right? If we're feeding that sugar talk, that food talk all day, we're not giving our body the nutrients it needs. So those cravings are going to be
Upsetting it.
loud at night. This is not a perfect world. I always say to my clients, we're not looking for perfectionism.
She said this is not a perfect world. Shocker.
Yes. We're not looking for perfectionism. We're
Yes.
looking for progress.
Yes.
So here and there, if there is something, I don't want people to go to bed hungry because that's
Yes.
waking us up, right?
Yes.
At that point, it's something protein-based. It's a Greek yogurt. It's, I know that at that point you want ice cream in that. But that's going to cause other problems, right? Going to
That
cause our
is.
blood sugar to go up, crash, and then that crash in the middle of the night will wake us up because our body's going to try to rescue us, produce cortisol,
Yes.
and that's going to wake us up. So if you really feel like you need to eat at night, I'd say it's something that's highly focused on protein. But I really always tell people, let's rewind. Where is that coming from?
So I asked Julie about this late night cravings, and she said, stop and rewind. and assess what you ate during the day. And that intentional living, when it comes to nutrition, is not about perfection. It is about progress. And she talked about, when she was mentioning about, is it something that will fill you up when we're rewinding to see what we ate during the day, it reminded me of something that my son had told me about. And he said, Mommy, the way I look at it is this, because we were talking about late night craving, and he said, if you're hungry in the night before we go to bed and go to the kitchen, and you cannot pick the healthiest thing in the kitchen and eat, then you're not hungry.
I love that. It's so true.
I said, Papa, that is actually correct. Because if you go to the kitchen and you cannot snack on a few sticks of carrot or celery, you really are not hungry. It's a sugar craving. And we need to do what my beautiful friend Julie said. We need to rewind and take inventory of what we ate during the day.
Absolutely.
So when she was talking, she mentioned protein. And I was at a track meet with one of my friends, and we were talking about prioritizing protein. And she said, girl, I feel like I have to quit my job in order to take in the required amount of protein for the day. So Julie, what do you have to say about this prioritizing protein, and how can I just fit that protein into my day?
Right. And I think a lot of people do feel that way. And I want to really emphasize that we hear a ton about it right now, right? I don't want people to think about this as another trend.
Yes.
That it is key for, again, blood sugar balance.
Yes.
Keeping us satisfied for hours.
Yes.
Right? So I think, one, we need to know a minimum goal to start out with. And this study's been repeated several times in terms of getting to weight loss and maintaining it.
Yeah, optimal
is
weight.
Minimum 90 grams a day.
Okay.
And I'm not one that is, puts everybody into a box, cookie cutter, one size fits all. But if we could at least start with that and break it down to, if you are, again, doing the 3 meals, 30, 30, 30.
Yes.
Again, I do more 2 bigger meals based on my schedule.
Yes.
Which that means 40 to 45 grams of protein.
Yes. That's a lot.
Yeah, I know. Boy, do I feel really good, right? In terms of cravings and food talk, it shuts it down, right?
Yes.
So I think, and I get that everybody has different taste preferences. Some, choose to be a vegetarian, vegan, various diets that are out there. But I always say start with the proteins that give you the biggest bang for the buck. So,
biggest bang for the buck. Give me some of those. Yeah.
I'm going to stay, and this is hard for vegetarians and vegans to hear, but the animal-based proteins, right?
Yes.
Lean proteins, not because we're afraid of the fat again, but because they're very protein dense, right?
Okay.
We take a chicken breast, compare it to a burger. Nothing wrong with a burger, but it's going to have more fat in it, not as much protein. Sure, good source of protein, but a chicken breast, 4 to 5 ounces, is going to get you to that 30 grams, no problem. We think about seafood, beef, eggs, beans, hummus, all of that still provide a good source, but we end up having to eat a lot more of those foods to get to that goal.
That's wonderful. If I was a vegetarian, what will be my go-to to hit that minimum at least? What will be 1 or 2 go-tos that you would advise me as a vegetarian to pick?
I do, and we need to think about the source of this, but tofu can be a good source. Definitely organic, right?
Yes.
Soy is very overproduced and genetically modified.
Yes.
So that is a great source. And beans are another great source. Lentils, very
wonderful.
protein
Love lentils.
dense.
Yes.
So I would say those are my first big go-tos. We can get them from nuts, but again, we end up, they're pretty calorically dense there.
So Julie, I, talking about the 4 pillars of intentional living with nutrition, movement, inner alignment, and positive social connection, I always, discuss with my clients about an intentional initiative. We talk about, you mentioned intentional living not being perfection, but being progress. And I love that. If I were to ask you for an intentional initiative, a small but practical and sustainable idea that I can implement today to help me, jump through the challenges of these pillars, of implementing these pillars to attain a fulfilled life, what would your advice be to me?
Of course, I'm going to say focus on nutrition.
Says the nutritionist.
And yes, exactly. But one, that's so broad, right? To focus on your nutrition. So I'll say one thing that you could focus on, only because this is going to be the trickle-down effect to movement,
Yes.
to inner alignment, to social connections.
Yes.
There's a huge connection, brain-gut connection. So what we're putting in our gut is going to affect our brain. So our motivation to do those other things. So
Yes.
we'll say start with cutting back sugar, right? So
Yes.
we're getting that bacteria in our gut in a good place, right? So this is the impact on our mind, to get motivated, to get up in the morning, do some gratitude, do prayer, however you want to start your day. Then you're motivated to do a workout. And then also, we cannot ever minimize the importance of social connections and how that impacts our overall health. I really think of what we put into our body is going to dictate our efforts throughout the day.
That makes total sense. She came for the sugar, guys. She said, cut back on the sugar. So if we cut back on the sugar, that, triggers the pathways, because what we're putting in our body, feeding that gut microbiome and, heal the gut microbiome, we love it because it controls, again, how our brain and the mood and everything. Thank you so much, Julie. I have one last question for you regarding our next segment, which is Supplement School with Emlah. If there was a supplement that you would like to give every single one of your clients, what would that supplement be?
Absolutely fish oil, right? So we think about inflammation being at the base of all disease.
Yes.
Fish oil, anti-inflammatory, feeds that bacteria in the gut, heals the gut lining, it's brain food, right? Absolutely fish oil. I think that's everyone in our country should be taking that daily.
She said, you get a fish oil, you get a fish oil, and you get a fish oil.
Exactly.
I love this. Well, this is a beautiful segue into our segment of Supplement School with Emlah. So today, in Supplement School with Emlah, we're going to talk about fish oil. So omega-3 fatty acids. The ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s is the problem. We need some omega-6s. We just don't need as many as our standard American diet, our SAD diet is providing us. Our standard American diet is providing us with a lot of omega-6 fatty acids. So we need to be intentional about adding omega-3 fatty acids into our diet. And there are essential fatty acids. Essential meaning our body cannot make them. And because our body cannot make them, we have to get them through food, as Julie said, or through supplementation. If you're not eating enough small fatty fish, 2 to 3 times a week, you need to be supplementing with a good omega-3 fatty acid supplement. Emlah Naturals Mega Omega does have, it's a triglyceride form, and this is one thing I tell people. Take your omega-3 fatty acids, but be very mindful of the source. Should be from small fish, maybe sourced from the Chilean coast, which is the least industrialized coast. And also, look on the bottle. Make sure it is a triglyceride form. The triglyceride form of your omega-3 fatty acids is bioidentical to the one found in the fishes, actually. So make sure it's not an ethyl ester form. So the triglyceride form is the form that we want and not the ethyl esters, so which is a semi-synthetic form. Omega-3 fatty acids, typically EPA, DHA, and ALA. ALA mostly from the plants, but kind of has to be converted to EPA and DHA before it works in the body. So when people think of omega-3 fatty acids, the first thing they think about is, oh my gosh, cardiovascular benefit. Yes, 90% correct.
Yes.
Cardiovascular benefit, but we forget that omega-3 fatty acids are very important for mental clarity. They're important for brain health, for mood. They're important for visual acuity. They're important for your skin. they're important for your joints. So thank you for giving us that opportunity to talk about omega-3. If you were to ask me, and I would answer very similar to Julie, if question for our listeners and our viewers today, if you were to put a multivitamin and an omega-3 fatty acid and said, Emlah, you can only have one, what will we be picking today? Omega-3 fatty acids.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much, Julie. Thanks for spending this time today with the listeners and myself and on this podcast. If anything we discussed today resonates with you, make sure you are subscribing to this podcast. Make sure you are sharing with somebody. We cannot keep these wonderful things to ourselves. Subscribe, share, and make sure to review this podcast so that we continue to grow. So, Julie, thank you for joining us today. Where can people find you? Where can our listeners find you? I know you do one-on-one consults because you've worked with some clients of mine, and let me tell you, they adore you. They adore you. I was talking with Talita yesterday, and she said, isn't Julie just wonderful? I know. I said, I know. Tell me something new. Awesome. So where can people find you if people need to work with you?
As I mentioned, I have the private practice in Dublin, Ohio here. Website is balancehealthandnutrition.com. And on social media, Instagram mostly is Balance HNC, Health and Nutrition Coaching. I look forward to hearing from you.
And we will put the links to her in the show notes. And so that way you'll be able to reach Julie. If you're following me on Instagram or getting my newsletters, you will get all that information and links to Julie. But if you also stop by the pharmacy, I will be always, because she's the nutritionist that works with our clients at the pharmacy.